Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, December 14th. Hopefully, everybody's having a good day so far today. We are just a little over 24 hours away from the New York Jets taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars down in Jacksonville in a Week 15 matchup between two teams that are completely out of the playoff picture, two teams that are eliminated and already looking ahead to 2025. Today is episode 446 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for tuning in. It's another week, another game preview. We'll break down all angles of this Week 15 matchup between the Jets and the Jaguars tomorrow afternoon, 1 Eastern on Fox. As always, though, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS. Let's take a look at the odds for this one on Sunday afternoon. The Jets come into this one as a road favorite, 3.5-point favorites for the New York Jets. The Jaguars are plus 3.5 on the spread. The home dogs, Jets minus 180 on the money line, Jaguars at plus 155 on the money line, and the total for this game is set at 4.5. If you want to get in on the betting action for this game, any other NFL action, or any other sports action, check out BetUS and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, you're looking to get out to any awesome sporting events, plays, concerts, shows, you name it, and you haven't used SeatGeek before, well, you're in luck. Use my promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to some awesome events. Also, our friends over at Huga House, if you want any of their awesome selection of hats, including some new arrivals, use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some awesome Huga House swag. So here we are, another week, another New York Jets game preview. We have officially hit elimination game previews. 4 games left on the season. Last week's loss against the Miami Dolphins officially eliminated the Jets from playoff contention for the 14th year in a row, longest active drought in all 4 major sports. Week before that, the loss to the Seahawks clinched their 9th straight losing season, which is the 6th longest losing season streak in NFL history. So not a great year. That feels like it continues to just get worse and worse for the Jets as each week goes by. And this one on Sunday afternoon feels like the Tank Bowl. It is a massive game in terms of draft implications, and really a game that you could probably make the case shouldn't even be televised between 2, 3, and 10 teams. And that's exactly what you got. Here's some numbers. Jets come into this one 3-10. They are 1-6 on the road this season. Their only road win coming week 2 of the season against the Tennessee Titans, which, if it wasn't for Will Levis playing like garbage, the Jets probably would have lost that game. That was the only Jets road win this year. You have to go all the way back to September. We are here in December 3rd, or we're here December 15th, rather. Will be game day tomorrow. We're here in week 15, and it's been 13 weeks since the Jets road win. So it's been a while. Jaguars come into this one 3-10 as well. They're 2-4 at home. ESPN Analytics matchup predictor is giving the Jets a 61.8% chance of winning this game, while the Jacksonville Jaguars are given a 37.8% chance of winning this game. And as I mentioned, we'll get to the draft implications here pretty much right away. This is a massive one. The New York Jets come into this game with the 7th pick in the draft, currently according to Tankathon, and the Jaguars come into this game with the 5th pick in the draft, currently, if the season would to end right now. Now, as we know, both these teams sitting at 3-10. The best these teams can do is 7-10. They win their final 4. The worst these teams can do, lose their final 4, finish with 3-14. The way things look currently for the Jets going into tomorrow's action, from a draft pick perspective, the Jets come into this game currently with a 2.3% chance to get the first overall pick, a 36.1% chance to get a top 5 pick and a 92.7% chance to get a top 10 pick. And their current projection, according to ESPN and their FBI and their analytics department, they're projecting the Jets to get the 8th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. From a Jacksonville perspective, also a massive game for draft positioning. Jags are given a 5.6% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. They currently hold the 5th pick in the draft. They have a 54.1% chance of getting a top 5 pick, a 96.9% chance of getting a top 10 pick, and as currently slated, they're projected to finish with the 5th pick in the draft. So ESPN, FBI, their analytics projecting the Jags to not do any moving the rest of the year, sticking at 5 when April comes around. We'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, a win last week over Tennessee certainly doesn't help their case. We'll see what happens this week. Really feels like a game that two fan bases are rooting for one another, right? Jags fans hoping the Jets come out on top. Jets fans hoping the Jags come out on top, because that's the stage we've reached in the season, full-on tank mode. And really, both these teams come into this game with very similar underachieving seasons. You know, if you're Jacksonville, the way it ended last year, right, you were 8-3, you blow it, you miss the playoffs. You go into this season with a lot of talent. You go into this season still, from their fan base's perspective, right, you won a playoff game the year before. Even though last year ended the way it did, you still, you extended Trevor Lawrence. You had a lot of high hopes going into the year, and it just completely has blown up, right? Trevor Lawrence hurt, even when he was healthy, not playing well, not so much himself, but the defense, the guys around him. There's not many weapons on this team, not much talent on the roster. The defense has been horrible. The locker room has, Doug Peterson has lost the locker room, and they're sitting here basically 4 games left before they look for a new head coach and potentially a new general manager in Trent Baalke, depending on if he survives another year, another coaching change for this team. And then from the Jets' perspective, also similar. I would say the Jets went into this season, as we know, high expectations, higher, I would say, than Jacksonville. And here we are, 3-10, heading into week 15. And we're talking about the draft. We're talking about April. We're talking about general manager candidates. I just uploaded a video a couple days ago on 16 GM candidates, 15 of them coming from The Athletic, right? And we're talking about head coaching candidates. Mike Vrabel, do they go first time? Do they go veteran, proven, whatever? GM first, head coach first. How do the Jets approach it? So that's what we got. Beginning of the season, you maybe circled this game on your calendar as a late season potential big AFC showdown. Instead, you're looking at a late season, still technically a big AFC showdown if you want to talk about a draft perspective, because this game has a whole lot of meaning on the 2025 NFL draft in April, even though this is taking place, of course, in December. So let's get into this. We'll take a look here. Jets injury report. 2 players out in this one. Brandon Echols dealing with a shoulder injury. He will miss this week. And Kene Nwangu, obviously kick returner, running back, had that kick return against Seattle, broke his hand. He will be done for the year, so he will obviously miss this game and the remaining 3 after this one. Doubtful in this game, Xavier Newman dealing with a groin, and DJ Reed not expected to play, also dealing with a groin. So another week, another one of the Jets' top 2 corners, one of their top 2 corners out. Last week it was Sauce. This week it's going to be DJ Reed. And there's 3 guys that are questionable for the Jets. Breece Hall dealing with a knee, Morgan Moses dealing with a wrist, AVT dealing with an ankle. Those 2 guys expected to go. Breece is also expected to go. I don't love that, just because of the history there with the knee. This point in the season, 4 games left, there's no need to risk your star running back, one of your cornerstone pieces, one of your brighter spots on an otherwise awful team, risk an injury for 2025 and beyond. So, look, Breece wants to be out there. Jets coaching staff's going to throw him out there. I don't love it. If he's not 100%, 3-10, doesn't really mix well. So, hopefully he just finishes the year healthy. But it looks like he will play tomorrow, despite probably not being 100%, which doesn't mix very well with a 3-10 team where you probably would rather just shut him down. But either way, expect Breece to be out there tomorrow afternoon. As for the Jags injury report, pretty clean report, other than Evan Ingram will miss this one with a shoulder injury. So, pretty loaded report for the Jets. One guy on Jags injury report. Those are your injuries heading into tomorrow afternoon. Let's get into this one. Let's not waste any more time. Jets offense versus the Jaguars defense. Jets offense comes into this game ranked 27th in total offense, 31st in rushing offense, 19th passing offense, and the 25th scoring offense in football. As for the Jaguars, it's ugly. They are the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL, so they are dead last in the NFL in yards per game, 24th against the run, 31st against the pass, and 28th in scoring defense. So you have a 27th ranked offense against the dead last, the worst defense in terms of yards per game in the NFL. So potentially a week here where the New York Jets offense really dominates and really takes off. Of course, that being in a week 15 meaningless game that'll ultimately affect draft positioning. That sounds very much Jet-like. When you look at Aaron Rodgers, this one, he comes into this game 289 of 458 on the season. His completions to attempts, 63.1% completion percentage, 2,966 yards, 6.5 yards per completion, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, an 88.9 passer rating, and a 51.3 QBR. Obviously, last week, Aaron Rodgers had one of his better games as a Jet, despite the loss. I still think week 3 against New England was his best game as a Jet. I think part of that is they came away with the win. Last week they didn't, but he broke his long streak of not throwing 300 yards in a game for the first time. He did that since 2021. He won 27 of 39 last week, 69.2% completion percentage, 339 yards, 8.7 yards per completion, a touchdown, no picks, 104.5 passer rating, and a 73.8 QBR. So despite the loss, Rodgers had probably his best game, not probably, easily his best game since week 3 of the season, which was September 19th. So it's been a while since you saw Aaron Rodgers play like he played last week in Miami. Was it the warm weather? Who knows? He'll get another warm weather game. For the Jets fans out there that are still want to evaluate Rodgers, right? We went into that Seattle game and there was many assumptions that Rodgers has those 6 games to prove himself. Well, you're 2 games into that 6-game process. You've got 4 games left. So another week for those Jets fans that want to see Rodgers finish strong, see if he can do it against a defense that's not very good. The Dolphins defense isn't very good. You're facing the worst defense in football from a yards per game perspective. So could potentially be another big day there for Rodgers. I don't want to spend too much time on Rodgers just because you guys know how I feel. So there's your Rodgers stuff. What I'm keeping my eye on tomorrow, it's a lot of the young guys. I want to start with Olu Fashanu against Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. Really both tackles. Morgan Moses against Trayvon Walker will be a matchup to watch, but especially Olu versus, Josh Hines-Allen. When you look at Allen this season, he's got 35 total tackles, 7 sacks, 15 quarterback hits, and 8 tackles for loss. When you look at Trayvon Walker on the other side there, 48 total tackles, 8.5 sacks, which is tied for 11th in the NFL, 11 quarterback hits, and 10 tackles for loss. Combine the two, despite what has been an awful defense for Jacksonville and an otherwise underwhelming pass rush, just 25 sacks as a team. Combined, the two of those guys have 15.5 of the team's 25 sacks this season. They also have 83 tackles, 26 combined quarterback hits, and 18 combined tackles for loss here on the 2024 campaign. And Olu will be against Josh Hines-Allen. Allen over his career has remained one of the more under-the-radar, elite, better pass rushers in the NFL. He really has. He's been very good. Since getting drafted in 2019, 52 sacks in his career. Looking to, I believe this week, he's actually potentially looking to break Jacksonville's sack record. Him and Brian Thomas Jr. have a couple team records that are on the line here late in the season. A guy that's been really just consistent, I would say, throughout his career. Every year is consistent, gets home to the quarterback, former first-round pick. And this is a big matchup for Olu. You can make the case this is one of Olu's toughest matchups he will get so far, and you can maybe make the case this will be his toughest matchup he will get the rest of the way here in his rookie season. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Olu can do. He was promising against Indy, looked amazing against Seattle. I thought he did some good things last week as well. So really 3 weeks in a row there with the bye mixed in since Olu has taken over the starting role when Tyron Smith went on IR, ending his season with a neck injury. Tomorrow is going to be a great opportunity for him. He's a guy tomorrow, where you're at in the season. There's going to be a lot of plays. Jets fans, just watch Olu Fashanu. See what he looks like against a veteran pass rusher, a former first-round pick, a guy that's got 52 sacks in a career, a guy that's potentially on his way to another double-digit sack season, which will be the second one of his career, and really a guy that has been one of the more consistent and under-the-radar pass rushers in his career as well. So Olu, Hines down tomorrow, something to look for. Trayvon Walker as well. Morgan Moses on the other side. 2 tough matchups that the Jets will have to hopefully win those battles. From an Olu perspective, you want to see him have some success. The rookie running backs, even though Breece is back tomorrow, how much is Breece actually out there? I do wonder that, even though he's playing. Do the Jets play it safe? I don't expect Breece Hall tomorrow to go out there and have 20 carries. He hasn't had 20 carries yet this year. It would be so Jets, though, I will admit, if they go out there and give him 20 carries tomorrow, because now that the season's over, okay, now we're going to feed Breece when he's not 100%, similar to what Robert Saleh did last year in New England last week of the season, gave Breece the ball pretty much every single play in a meaningless Week 18 game to get to 7-10. Although, come to find out now, that was the last game of Belichick's career. So maybe Saleh knew something. You wanted to send out Belichick as a loser in his NFL career. But either way, even with Breece back tomorrow, I still think you've got to focus on the rookie running backs. Last week, I thought it was a really good week for both Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. Starting with Braylon Allen. He had 11 carries last week, 43 yards, 3.9 yards per attempt. He added on 4 receptions for 38 yards, 9.5 yards per reception. Ended the day with 15 total touches, 81 yards, 5.4 yards per attempt. Didn't reach the end zone. Potentially, does he see the end tomorrow? We'll see. Definitely Braylon Allen's, though, probably his best game since Tennessee. And I think we want to see more Braylon Allen here down the stretch. These final 4 games, I want to see a lot of Braylon Allen. We saw a lot of Braylon Allen early in the season, and then middle part of the year, we didn't see much of Braylon Allen at all. There was also points where the run game was a non-factor there. Not just Braylon Allen, but even Breece. Down the stretch here, seasons you're eliminated. Time to evaluate the young guys. Breece isn't 100%. In my opinion, shouldn't even be playing, but that's besides the point. We know he's going to be out there. You guys know how I feel about that. Let's see Braylon Allen end the season strong. He started strong, kind of went through like a slump the middle of the season. Let's finish strong here. Last week was positive. Let's make it another positive week here for Braylon Allen. And Isaiah Davis as well, really the last 2 weeks. Seattle, Isaiah Davis scored his first career touchdown. It counted as a receiving touchdown. Last week, scored his first rushing touchdown. And I think what was great about that Isaiah Davis touchdown last week was it was Isaiah Davis running for the touchdown, but it was also Olu and Joe Tippmann and even John Simpson opening up a lane for Isaiah Davis on that left side. 3 guys that hopefully are your anchors, specifically Simpson, who's still younger, and Olu, of course, a rookie. 2 guys that hopefully are anchors on that left side of that line for a very long time. So there was a lot of positives that did go into that play. Not just Isaiah Davis touchdown, but the blocking and the guys who were blocking ahead of him to create that lane and potentially those guys here in the future. But Davis last week, 10 carries, 40 yards, 4 yards attempt, had the touchdown, added on 3 receptions for 27 yards, 9 yards per reception. Ended the day, he had that rushing touchdown. He had 13 total touches for 67 yards, 5.2 yards per attempt. So it was a good day for Isaiah Davis. Combined, the two went well over 100 yards combined with the touchdown, and combined had 28 total touches on a day. So a lot of Davis and Allen last week. I would expect, even with Breece back, I would expect more of those guys tomorrow, and I would hope to see more of those guys tomorrow. We know what Breece Hall is. We want to see more out of the rookies. So that's where that stands. My other guy I'm looking for, Malachi Corley. I mean, it's so disappointing, his rookie season. It's just disappointing, not even just from Malachi Corley's perspective, but it's just so disappointing the fact that we're sitting here again with a Jets receiver picked on day 2 or day 3, and they're just not panning out like right now. They're just not. Like, Corley's been a non-factor this year. He has 3 catches on the season. He has 2 carries. He's got 5 total touches on the year. 6 targets. I wrote an article on it. It should be up very soon on Corley, and if there's reason to be concerned. And I think there is. You look at the Jets' history. It's not great when it comes to it's not a great history when it comes to in general, but the Jets' history tells us if you're a mid-round wide receiver selected by the Jets, it's not going to end well. And early on here in Corley's career, it's concerning. You know, you look at the names, just Douglas alone. He drafted Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore in his first 2 drafts. Both second-round picks, neither panned out. And even prior to Douglas, you had Darius Stewart, Devin Smith, Chad Hansen, Stephen Hill, and others. History tells us, especially over the last decade, if you're a mid-round receiver selected by the Jets, it's not going to work out. And unfortunately, Malachi Corley here, early in his career, is following that same trend that we've seen. And I know it's only his rookie year, but he's been inactive 4 times. He was inactive again last week. And I'm so sick of him being inactive for veteran guys like Alan Lazard. Lazard's not going to be here next year. You've seen nothing from Corley this year. And Ulbrich even said it on Friday. Well, we don't feel like Corley's quite ready yet. Put him out there. We don't know if he's not ready yet. We've barely seen the guy. I mean, we obviously know he's not quite ready to hold on to the football and, finish a touchdown. But outside of that, like, all jokes aside, we haven't seen the guy at all. And unfortunately, and the reason I'm ranting about this is I want to see more Corley tomorrow. Who even knows if he'll be active? And even in the 9 games he's been active for, he's only played in 8 of them. He didn't see any play time in week 4 against Denver. But it feels like Corley's entering down that path here. 3rd-round pick, 65th overall. Jets traded up for him in April. Feels like he's entering down that path again of another mid-round Jets wide receiver bust. Because for some reason, this organization just does not know how to develop mid-round receiver talent. Douglas himself did not find any mid to late round gems on offense. None of them. Defensively, sure. No, he found Jamie Sherwood, got Michael Carter, but offensively, ugly. Whether you're talking about Mims, you're talking about Elijah Moore, Jeremy Ruckert, heck, Max Mitchell, Carter Warren doesn't look very good. A lot of mid-round misses for Douglas. So I want to see Corley finish strong. I don't even know if he'll be active, but it feels like more and more Corley's career here is just going to be some sort of gadget guy. And we'll see. New coaching staff, better coaching staff. Do they find something out of him? But he's so far from the Yak King. It's disappointing. It's not his fault. It's just this organization, for some reason, buries these guys. So we'll see. One other receiver that's actually a huge positive, that's Garrett Wilson. Another week of watching his numbers. On the year, he had a 100-yard week last week. On the year, 81 receptions, 877 yards, 5 touchdowns, 10.8 yards per reception. Tied for 4th in NFL in receptions, 8th in yards, tied for 20th in touchdowns. Just a couple numbers here. 15 receptions away from setting a new career high in receptions. He's 19 away from becoming the second Jets receiver in franchise history to hit 100 receptions on the season, only, of course, behind Brandon Marshall. He's also 123 yards away from his 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in as many years, and he's 227 yards away from his career high. So some notes there to watch on Garrett here tomorrow and the rest of the way. Let's get into the Jets defense against the Jaguars offense here. Jets defense comes into this one, 4th total defense in the NFL, 16th against the run, 4th against the pass, and the 19th scoring defense in football. The Jaguars offense comes into this one, well, similar to their defense. Pretty bad. 28th total offense, 26th rushing offense, 24th passing offense, and the 20th scoring offense in football. We do know, though, those stats are skewed. The Jets are not a top 5 defense. You watch them play, they're not anywhere close to a top 5 defense. You watch that pass rush, it is one of the biggest failures of the season. One of the biggest failures of Joe Douglas's tenure is what he did from last year to this year to the defensive line. It's pathetic. the amount of talent that he had and the amount of talent it has now. And that falls on Douglas's plate, who's not even here. But I feel the need to put that out there anyway, because it ticks me off so much. I just, it's so frustrating what he did to that defensive line. But we know the drill with this defense. They've played kind of a bend but don't break style this year. They don't turn the ball over much. Neither defense really forces any turnovers, so we'll see if that happens at all tomorrow. Neither of these teams, again, do much well. So does either of these teams do anything well tomorrow? You've got 2, 3-10 teams. It feels like one team's got to show up. Oftentimes in these games, 2 bad teams against each other, one team ends up looking good because the other team's so bad. So we'll find that out here in a little over 24 hours, which team that is. But all seriousness, though, again, it was another week last week for the Jets on defense where they blow it late, get to overtime. You got Miami running multiple of the same plays in a row to the same guy in Jonnu Smith. Jets have no answers. It was a mess. Late game management by the Jets is a disaster. Overtime was a mess. Not much more to say there. From a Jaguars perspective, well, it's the Mac Jones show again tomorrow. Mac Jones comes into this game on the season, has completed 80 of 123 passes for a even 65 completion percentage, 732 yards, 6 yards per completion, 2 touchdowns to 5 picks, 69.6 passer rating, and a 29.3 QBR. Mac Jones, familiar name, familiar face, just in a different place. 5-0 in his career against the Jets. So tomorrow, Jets look to go out there and hand Mac Jones his first loss. Pulled out the numbers. Mac Jones against the Jets in his career, 108 of 157. That's 68.8% completion percentage, 1,134 yards, 7.2 yards per completion, 4 touchdowns, a pick, 95.3 passer rating, and of course, that undefeated 5-0 record. So Jets will look to avoid 0-6 tomorrow against Mac Jones. I will say this, though. That 5-0 record is a little, it's almost like a pitcher's record in baseball, little skewed. Even though he's 5-0, it's not like Mac Jones has toasted the Jets. Mac Jones, just breaking down the numbers, he's had 4 touchdowns in 5 games against the Jets. He's only 3 of his 5 games he's had touchdowns in, including 1 multi-touchdown game where he had 2. So it's not like Mac Jones has gone out there year in and year out when he was with New England for his 3 seasons and dominated the Jets 2 times a year. That wasn't the case. A lot of times it was actually more the Jets than it was Mac Jones, right? You go to week 2 is the first matchup against the Jets. Zach Wilson's first game at MetLife Stadium threw 4 interceptions. Jets lost that game 25-6. They put up 6 points. It was more Zach Wilson turning the ball over. Patriots defense was all over Zach. Now, later that year, you had the game where Zach got hurt. Mac Jones, I'll give it to him. That was his only multi-touchdown game. That was the game they put up 54. He had 300-plus yards. He had 2 touchdowns. Okay. Now, 2022, none of that was Mac Jones. The first game against the Jets, Zach didn't play well. You also had the Michael Carter pick 6 get called back before halftime. Then the second game against the Jets, neither offense did anything. Marcus Jones returns the punt. The Jets lose 10-3. So none of that was Mac Jones. 2 weeks prior, it was more the Jets, and heck, you want to call it a ref jab, fine. And in last year, Mac Jones beat the Jets. The Jets didn't have an offense. Nick Baldwin scored the only touchdown that day for the Jets in week 3 of last season. So even though Mac Jones has beat them 5 times, I would only say 1 time did he legitimately dominate and play well. And that was 54-13 in 2021. A lot of times it's been more the Jets just beating themselves, which they like to do. And Zach Wilson not playing well, which happened a lot. So a little skewed. But either way, we'll see what happens. Does Mac Jones get to 6-0? Do the Jets get to 0-6? Find that out tomorrow. One of the best pieces, really one of the only big pieces I think you want to watch for tomorrow from Jacksonville perspective. Obviously, they've got Etienne and Bigsby. Bigsby's done some good things. Etienne's hasn't had quite the year he's had. His first 2 seasons, over 1,000 yards. This year, well below that. Won't even sniff that. Bigsby's been better, but It's a very predictable run game, not a great run game. They're 26th in the NFL in rushing offense. And to be fair, the Jets defense against the run actually the last couple weeks has been much better. They were solid against Jonathan Taylor. They did a good job against Kenneth Walker, and they kept Devon Achane in check last week. So all things considered, the Jets have actually, since the Cardinals game, of course, right? Once their season really just officially dies, now they find a way to stop the run. But since that, they've been able to stop the run a little bit better. So we'll see if that happens tomorrow. And it's not a very fearful Jaguars rushing attack. But Brian Thomas Jr. is a name to watch. In a Jets secondary that'll be banged up, you'll probably see some Sherfield. You'll probably see some Quantez Stiggers. Expect him to make his first start tomorrow alongside Sauce with DJ Reed out. Brian Thomas Jr. has been one of the only bright spots. Forget Jacksonville's offense, but their team as a whole. 54 receptions this season, 851 yards, 15.8 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns. He's tied for 14th in the NFL, so top 15 in both yards and touchdowns. As a rookie, and give him credit. He played with Trevor, who then he missed, he's been without his starting quarterback. Now he's playing with Mac Jones. So he's been bouncing around quarterbacks, still finding ways to get the job done. And tomorrow he also has a chance to break a Jets rookie or Jaguars rookie receiving record as well. So this time of year, as I always say, stat watching for some of these individuals. And the same goes for Will McDonald tomorrow. Still stuck at 10 sacks. We'll see if he can get that number up here over the next 4 games. But that's pretty much it. Now, I do have this one note that I've got to share with you. Something about the Jets in Florida, it just doesn't mix well. Now, you can make the case the Jets in anywhere don't mix well. The Jets in MetLife don't mix well because they don't win anywhere. But especially Florida. We talked about last week, right? They went to Miami. They lost again. They haven't won a game in Miami since 2014. Now, that's really bad because they play Miami every year in Miami, of course, them being their division. So this stat that I'm about to give you isn't as bad because they don't play Jacksonville in Jacksonville every year. Of course, Jacksonville in the AFC South. So they only get them the years where they finish in the same spot in the division. And, of course, the year that they play the entire division. But something to note here. The Jets have not gone to Miami and won in a while. And they also have not gone to Jacksonville and won a while. The last time the Jets beat Jacksonville on the road was week 14 of 2012. 17-10. Jets caught the 6-7 on the season. Jaguars fell to an abysmal 2-11 on the year. Mark Sanchez and Chad Henne were your quarterbacks that day. Jeff Cumberland, Jets legend, tight end, of course, spent about 6 years, I believe it was with the Jets, from 2010 to 2015. Was your leading receiver. He had 1 reception for 37 yards. Bilal Powell had a touchdown. Sean Green had a touchdown. So it was overall low-scoring affair, but the Jets found a way to win. That was their last win. It was Mark Sanchez versus Chad Henne, week 14, 2012. So the last win in Jacksonville for the New York Jets. So it's been a while. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but figured I'd bring that up. I'm kind of geeky like that with some of those numbers. And given the fact that we were just in Miami, got a long drought there, it's also been a pretty long drought in Jacksonville. Again, don't play them every single year, so a little different. Not as ugly, but still, 2012 is a long time. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's the Tank Bowl, baby. It's the Tank Bowl. I think the Jets are going to win. Look, this is a game the Jets win. This is it right here, right? You get this far. As bad as this team has been, and as much as I thought that this team would beat Indy just because that's what they do, I wouldn't have been surprised if we went into this game with the Jets at like 5 wins. If you would have told me 5 weeks ago the Jets would have went into this game 3-10, I probably wouldn't have believed you just because of the fact that the Jets just don't do that. Like, they always find ways to mess it up. And so far, they've tanked big time here. Usually that Colts game, usually from a Jets tanking perspective, is a game they would win to mess themselves up. Like Seattle, they would have found a way to do that. They would have found a way to beat Colts and Seattle back to back, get to 5 wins, then lose to Miami. Maybe pick up a little bit of hope and then lose to Miami and then like beat Jacksonville, but they're losing all these games. Look, both teams are bad, and believe me, the Jets at points this season where they're awful. They're not a good football team, but I think Jacksonville's worse. I mean, just from a talent perspective, as bad as the Jets have been, as bad as their coaching is, it's not even really that. It's just the Jets always win this game. There's so much draft implications on the line in this one that it'll always fall back to the age-old saying, when the Jets win, they ultimately end up losing. And that'll be the case, I believe, tomorrow. It really doesn't, some of it has to do with how bad the Jaguars are and that, but a lot of it more has to do with the fact that the Jets always win this game. They always do. 3-10, a chance to really skyrocket up the draft rankings. They'll find a way to win and really tank their draft stock as opposed to tank properly. So I think the Jets will win tomorrow, 23-13. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think it's probably a pretty good game for Rodgers. I don't think this Jaguars defense is going to have much success. They haven't all year. I don't see why that'll be the case tomorrow. I think the Jets offense will probably have a pretty good success, rightfully so. It's a terrible team, so that doesn't really mean a lot. And that's it. I'll take the Jets 23-13. And when the Jets win this time of year, they ultimately lose because draft position. So this is a game the Jets win. And I feel tomorrow will be the same song and dance. So week 15, let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Jets, Jaguars, who do you think pulls this one out? Talk to you guys right after the game for my post-game recap pod. As always, stay tuned. Appreciate you all so much. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you soon.